I know it just seems more scripted to me to be like, right, we're starting
Yeah.
this. Like, imagine going on stage being like, right, I'm gonna start my comedy in three, two, one. I think you get absolutely bombed off your ass.
Quite a good opener, I think.
Well, you can try it first if you want. You can let me know how it goes.
Yeah. You can do that
You be my guinea pig, to be honest.
one.
No, I had one because you know the blackout in Up the Creek.
Oh yes, I've never done this one, but I've watched some of it. I've seen it, yeah.
I really want to do one and time it to go like, baby, when and have the lights go out at that time. And but my timing would be so awful. But yeah, I was
Like it's like the Whitney Houston drum. You know this? Do you know the Whitney Houston drum?
really used to drum.
Yeah, it's a thing you can do. You play the song "I Will Always Love You," and there's a gap in the music, and people do it on the TikTok and stuff, and then there's a pause, and it goes dum dum, and it comes back in, but nobody can get the hit the drum on the right beat.
Yes, right, okay. I've got a couple of them ones. Was it outfields? Stacey's on a bit your love. It's like you think it's about to start, but
Yes,
it
that's
does it
right.
like another like eight rips into it. But the ones there, no one always gets it wrong.
In fact, thinking of that, that's actually it's almost like writing stand-up, really. Just thinking there, trying to you misdirection or something, with the audience. So the Whitney Houston drum could be like an analogy for that. You think you're going one way and then it hits too early or too late. Could be. If you see me ducking down at any point, I'm just lifting a coffee up.
Okay,
Uh,
fair enough.
The Elvis mug.
Okay. Oh, okay. Interesting. What what different types of Elvises have you seen? I've seen a black Elvis.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
had a bit of bald Elvis. I've seen a Korean Elvis and a Portuguese Elvis.
Yeah, I seen a black Elvis at a wedding once. Was very good actually in the gold lame suit. I saw Patelvis,
Brilliant.
Indian one. There was a documentary I watched, and it was a Spanish one. And instead of in the ghetto, he was singing in El Barrio, which is ghetto in Spanish, I believe, or Mexican or something. And who else have I seen? And I'm going to say a colleague of mine, but my age, it makes me forget all names of people. It'll come back to me. But he does an Elvis act called Dead Elvis,
Good.
and I think he's all dug up instead of all shook up.
Yep. I'm
Which is
all
very
dug
funny.
up.
Yeah, it's very funny.
I mean, I've never been a fan of musical comedy, but I appreciate the art.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch musical comedy either, actually, but yeah, it's very clever because they're doing comedy and playing an instrument
Yeah. But I was
at
like, but what comes first? Is like chicken or the egg? Do the lyrics come first, then the
Yeah.
song, or do you choose the song, then the lyrics?
Well, interesting enough, I was looking at a Robbie Williams impersonator on Facebook, and his face looked just. I thought it was Robbie. And I said to my lady friend Hilary Jane, my partner, I said, "What do you think came first?" He looked in the mirror and thought, "Well, I could probably do the voice as well, but that's quite a big ask, to be able to look at your face and say, I look like Robbie Williams. Oh, can I sing as well? Oh, I can sing, look, and now I can actually do the voice. And it's
If
quite
I,
hard to see someone who really looks like them. I think that's a very odd thing that you're also a singer. It just coincidence, and also you're an impersonator.
but sometimes you're like, I didn't pick my job picked me. Some of them, I would
Yeah.
agree on that. But then you get the ones where it's like, I paid 30,000. It's always American for some reason. I paid $30,000 to look like David Beckham.
Yes, I've
It's
seen
like
this.
it's just like the worst
Yeah,
botched job in the world.
I've seen this man. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
doesn't
like
look like
singing.
him.
You can. I always think if you take singing courses, there's an element you can get to, but most of it is going to be raw natural talent.
Yes. Well, you can. Well, hard work, I think, as well.
I mean,
There is.
with singing, I think the greats have
Oh,
always had that
yes.
in
There's
them.
a natural pipes. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. But
Would
then,
you say the same about comedy?
I would say there's an innate something wrong. There's a disconnect with society, perhaps, or um, so like a melancholy, maybe. There's something odd about the certainly any. I think any kind of solo performer is, which I'm fascinated by the solo performing of any kind, whether it's ballet or a singer. magician, anybody like that. I think there's something desperately troubling about that person. And I'll tell you for why, because why would a person, one of my favorite things about stand-up or any kind of performance is just before you go on in the wings, in a theatre, the wings, or in a pub, just standing at the back or something, and you're left alone with yourself, just moments before it, and it's just you really. And I always feel like a separation between myself and the other person because there's like two people in everybody,
Mm.
like you know, and it's a bit talking to yourself. And I always find that fascinating. So I mean, who would do that? I don't know anybody really. A civilian, wouldn't think to do that. Whereas
Mm.
it, whereas a performer is drawn to the darkness of the wing space, and you think, who am I in this? You've got to. I'll tell you what you have to do in the wing space of a theatre or in a comedy club at the back, or in the comedy store in a small dressing room with other people in it, cramped in, is that you have to come face to face with yourself, and who you are, and you're just with yourself holding your own hand, really. So I find that I'm ultimately fascinated in that. That's one of my things that I'm interested in. That moment in the dark. It's just you. Why am I doing it?
Mm.
What, what am I doing? Like a UFC fighter, say Stephen Thompson, Wonderboy Thompson in the UFC, in an interview saying as he walks out, he's thinking, oh, in the dressing room, he's thinking as his hands are getting wrapped, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this, and I do want to do this equally at the same time. And I feel the same. I don't want this, and I want it in equal measure.
It's because no one's told us to do it.
Yeah.
We've chose to put ourselves under this enormous amount of pressure. One thing I've always quite fascinated with, and one thing I've sort of noticed along the way, is that most comedians are introverts.
For the for the most part, I would say. Well, I would say introvert. Yeah. Again, I think it's an equal part. Let's speak for myself, but equal part introvert, equal part, you know, taking your trousers down in public. It's equal parts of those. And when I don't drink or smoke now or drugs now or anything like that. But when I used to drink, the trousers would come down. So I can see the two parts of it. I couldn't wait to stand on a table with the trousers down, pants down.
And the highlight
So
reel the morning after in your head going through everything. Like, okay, you sort of do a checklist like, right, who do I need to message? Who do I need to avoid?
that's like getting picked up, and I remember being many times being picked up in Old Street by the bouncer and being dumped on the pavement. So that's not a good way to live. So I think that the same thing. I think it's sort of I'm 100% introvert and also sort of 100% doesn't calculate extrovert.
Yeah.
As well. I think.
Would you say all the great comedians out there, they have their battle scars? Like comedy doesn't come from, whilst it brings people joy, I don't think it comes from a happy place. And you need that misery and that not shit life, but
Yeah.
your battle scar, your historic, your emotional battle scars to
Mm.
yeah, bring it to
I
life.
think I think battle scars is a good word, but I think that everybody, like, there's lots of comedians all from different backgrounds and different things. I don't think it's the scars from the outer world as such. I think it's, for me, it's more the scars from the inner, you know. And I think, and I don't mean things that have happened to you. I just mean sort of your own neurology, really. I think whatever, whatever happened to me as a child, or has happened to me as a child or adult, it wouldn't really affect the outcome of what I'm doing, because my brain is wired in such a way that everything is painful. Do you know what I mean? So
I don't know. I think I might challenge that because I've just finished a book, Courage to Be Disliked, and it's about Tillman's theory,
I like
and
that.
it's like
Yeah,
not no self gratitude, and like you choose to actually dislike someone, you choose to hold on to the traumatic memories. It goes completely against Freud, and is it nature or nurture? So
Yes, yes.
I think we do choose what scars we hold on to and which ones to express.
But then you how can you negotiate neurodiversity, for example? So if you're neurodiverse and you're in and you have light sensitivity or noise sensitivity, you're not rejecting or holding on to those scars. You're just feeling that. That wherever you are, no matter whether you're brought up privileged or not, you're walking through the shopping centre and you can't, and you're having a breakdown because it's too noisy and too busy. Yeah, these things you can't cure. There's just your neurology.
I
I would.
agree. I do agree, but also I would challenge that because like I was saying, I've got a lot of growing up. I didn't grow up privileged at all. Um, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I've got a lot of black mates who are like first generational black. Like all their parents were from Africa, and they said like ADHD, depression. It wasn't a thing in Africa. It was like so like they've chosen them
Well,
scars.
no, that's what they've said. I can see that, but
Yeah, maybe it's them just like trying to like pin it down and toughen it up. But we've gone on a more of a psychological.
they also say in a lot of countries that there's no gays either.
I do a bit on that actually.
You know what I mean?
In a Saudi, a woman who
There's
got
also a lot of countries say that there was no special needs either,
yeah that's
and
I do
had
a bit
them
because there was a
had
woman
them
who
had
got
them
arrested.
hidden at home, so the public couldn't see them. So that's also a thing.
And it is quite shocking. I did a bit on there was a woman who got arrested because she took she smuggled poppers into Saudi Arabia, which is
Yeah.
ironic because there are no gay people in Saudi Arabia.
Well,
Which so
or,
obviously there are like
or neurodiverse people.
also. So Joe, I haven't even done the introduction yet. Joe, this is actually now a world, and you've actually been the longest one before I've actually had the chance to actually introduce.
Well, I can certainly talk.
Welcome to another episode of Sit Down for Stand Up. Having me, fantastic comedian Andy Storey from was it Newcastle, but now
I'm
we're
from Durham, actually, but
Durham.
it's 20 miles from Newcastle. I once walked home from a nightclub after seeing the Cramps at the Mayfair in Newcastle. I walked 21 miles home.
North or south of south is it
No,
of
why?
Newcastle? Is it
I'm,
north
I'm,
or south of Newcastle?
I'm not
Durham.
I'm not a geographer. So,
Where with the wind? Lucky
but
where.
I tell you what, I was on a train yesterday going to this gig in Ealing, and I often get lost, on the way to everywhere. I once turned up at a gig once, waiting for a car to pick me up, and the guy said, "Are you sure you're at the right station?" And I said, "Of course I am." As I looked behind me on the platform, it was a totally different place. I had no idea where I was, so you had to wait another half hour. And I actually negotiate my way with the help of my partner on the phone. And last night I got on a train, and a guy jumped on. There's these people who get on quick and say, "Where's it going?" I hate these kind of people anyway because they haven't put the work in. That you're on a train and the doors open, they jump in and say, "Is it going to King's Cross or whatever?" And I think, well, look at the sign like everybody else. Anyway, I said to him, "I've no idea, to be fair," and he said, "Well, you're on the bloody train, are you?" I said, "Well, you're on the train as well, so you should put the work in." I was thinking, but I had no idea where I was. I knew I was getting off in Farringdon, 2 stops, but I didn't know where the train was going. And he said to me, "Is it north or south?" And I said, "I've no idea. I'm just doing a gig. I'm a comedian, so I just got to remember my set list." That's
I
all.
had it on Saturday. I did a lads Beano. We do a Christmas and a summer pub crawl, and we went down to Hannah Bay, and we ended up getting pissed as farts, wrong train. I ended up in
Yeah.
Bromley South. So yeah, it happens.
Don't
Happens to
want
the
to
best of
remember
them.
Bromley South.
I'm from South East Bexley,
I like
so
Bromley South, actually. It's quite
you know what I
nice.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, too sad. So how long have we been doing comedy for?
I started stand up in November the 16th, 2011.
And why did we get into it? I know we've sort of done like the psychological side of it, but why
Yeah.
yourself did you decide to go on stage for the first time?
Well, I think I always wanted to do it. When I was a child, I liked sort of solo. I enjoyed watching solo comedians. I like double acts. In the north, we got Cannon and Ball. Little and Large, these kind of people. Who else? Les Dawson I saw in a pantomime once. So sort of these older comedians. And growing up, I liked Kenneth Williams. I liked Frankie Howard, this kind of people that I watched on a little solo things, shows and stuff. And also Larry Grayson, I liked sort of the old what I would call them seaside comedians, but that's not to you know uh, not speak highly of them, but it's just my word for it. But I mean, superbly talented comedians. So I always wanted to do something solo, I think, and I went to drama school, and that wasn't solo. When I left drama school, I worked extensively in the theatre, Royal Shakespeare Company, and the likes, in a lot of theatre work. Dundee Rep. I was in the Jungle Book, and
Who was you in Jungle Book?
Oh, I just left drama school, so I was in the chorus.
Okay.
What they call in the theatre the ensemble.
Uh,
So at one point I played a chimpanzee, and at other point I was another animal, and dancing around and singing.
well, that's one of my karaoke songs. Was it? I work.
I want to be like you.
Yeah, that's one of my. Like, I've got two karaoke songs. That and
Blue the
California
Bear.
Dreaming.
I understood it. I understood it, Blue the Bear, actually, in that. I think I went on. I wasn't very good. Anyway, so after quite a while at doing acting, I don't know how many years, maybe a decade, 8 years, maybe. Or less, I decided to wanted to do this solo pursuit, and I did a gig at the on Shaftesbury Avenue at the Lions Den. Everybody will know that if they work in London, they will know that at the bar Rumba in on Shaftesbury Avenue.
Yeah.
It was called Car Crash Comedy Night, and I did my first spot. And one person I think was there on the night who probably his first gig as well. Lenny Sherman is still working as well, so I'm very proud of him. And we spoke on that first night. That was a long time ago, and that was it really. So I just kept at it. I think with anything you just have to keep at it.
Yeah. Perseverance is better than.
I think when a new comedian asks me something about the business or something, I say if you just keep at it, it's very easy to break into the money. It doesn't I think anybody, if they start stand up and they've got reasonable skills, I mean quite low bar really, you can make some money for sure.
But would you say? But I would challenge that you didn't come in as a novice because you had the acting experience.
Yeah,
So you already had that stage presence.
yes, but in many ways it is true, but in many ways I was a show off child anyway, and also I had to unlearn a lot of the things as well, I think.
I didn't even see it from that side as well. Yeah, like,
Because um as a comedian, you start off like your first gig or something. I just did puns, like Star Wars puns. I didn't know what I was doing. I just cobbled together some things that I'd heard, even, and nothing that I'd heard, but that kind of style of comedy that was there. And
well, you said you was an observational comic. When did you decide to go down that road instead of
yeah,
like a one
I
liner?
started in November in 2011, and then I remember by January of 2012, I'd written a couple of observational bits.
Yeah.
So the pun bit was just to get me on stage, I think. I didn't know what to say. And then I wrote one joke. I remember we went away for New Year's Eve for a holiday, 2011. And I remember jotting down a little joke. Somebody had said to me something, and I thought that's quite fun. And that joke has stayed. I didn't do it last night, but that joke has stayed in and around my set all this time. The only survivor.
Are there some jokes in your bit in your sets that do have like a soft spot in your heart?
I wouldn't say a soft spot, but I like the sort of Jerry Seinfeld model. That if you get a good bit, you keep doing it.
Okay, so you say your greatest hits more than like Chris Rock, Louis C.K. banging out new material every special.
Yeah, I think
Seinfeld's great. You're great. People go to a band to see the greatest hits.
of course when you're doing like Eddie Izzard once said that he did a show and it was under a controversy actually. I think he was sued or something, tried to be sued or something by an audience member who went to see a show, and then the next year he did an hour show and there was half of it was the other show, you know.
Yeah.
What he said was he sort of rolls it round. So he's got an hour show and then he writes for the year and then he puts the good stuff into it, however much he's got. So when I went to Edinburgh, I did the same idea, which I do now, you know, is to write your hour. I got an hour, and then the next year, if you've written 20 minutes of really good stuff, slot that, you know, get that into the old hour, and now you've got a better hour, and then keep going. In fact, it's not dissimilar to what Louis C.K. Said about making the samurai sword and pressing the metal over and over again until you've got, a good bit.
I'm not. I'm a massive fan of Louis C.K.
Right.
I've not heard that.
Yeah, yeah,
Years ago.
about how they make a sword getting all the impurities out of the metal, and then folding more metal in and impurity, and then folding more until you've got this beautiful sword, And I think I would, like last night, I did opening 20, so it's got to be all solid. And I'll tell you the advantage of a solid. Although my mind starts putting bits in that I don't want to say. Last night I was kept saying bits and I kept thinking, go back to what you planned there because you're going off on something here. So that's just the mind. But the
Oh,
advantage of that is that like an actor almost, it's almost like an acting like a method actor or something, or kind of actor, is when you're acting, you learn the lines, but that is just the beginning. Once you've learned the lines, that's not the end of the process, that's the beginning. So once you've learned the set, you need to really get that into your bones
mm.
until you're not thinking about the set. So now you can go on and just be. And the set is, you don't need to think about what's next or the words, or you're just there and you can react in the moment, and it just comes out, very naturally.
But when you say do new material, how long would you? One, how many times would you try something? And two, how long would you say the process is until it becomes part of your core?
Yeah. I think I know pretty quickly, I think, after a couple of goes, even one go, I just know, even in the house, I know. I've got this new bit about the murder. I saw this murder it was on television actually, but you can change it, reading about this murder. And a couple of times it's happened actually that a man has murdered somebody and put them folded them up into a sports bag. Do you remember this guy who was a murderer and he killed somebody and he hid them in a large sports bag?
And
And
then
this
there's
was
one
on
where he
the
did him in like an airport, no, like a locker room, and he
Yeah,
put loads
locker
of
room. There
bags
was
in different lockers.
another one recently where he killed two men and put one in a sports bag and he dragged the sports bag half a mile. And that's when he got caught, you see. He should have left the body in the house and fled the country. So anyway, the story.
Why didn't the bag have wheels? We're in the 21st
Oh,
century.
there was no, he's just dragging this just sports bag along with it.
One
But
with wheels, inefficient, and it deserves to get caught, in my opinion. If you're not being logical on this,
that's
yeah.
how he got caught. My idea of the joke was that my first thought was that I needed a new bag, because my bag, the zip broke just after coming back from the shop. I had fruit and veggies got a man's body in it. And that's a good bag.
For life. This is bullshit.
Yeah, an idea like that, I think, just writing in the house, I haven't not taken that to the stage yet, just the idea, but I think that's certainly got something, and I think that could be quite funny. I think that could be a very funny bit. I feel that. I feel there's something there that's very
you,
funny.
you mentioned Seinfeld, so obviously very self-evident speaking with you. You are a student of comedy.
Yeah.
When it comes to writing jokes, do you go for the Seinfeld approach of sit down for half hour every day, or
Mm.
does it just sort of just come as it comes?
Yeah, I tried this. I tried in my life, I try to sit down every day and do all the things every day. If I'm doing the gym, I try to go, and it never works out. So writing wise, I don't. I've started writing more this year actually. Well, of late actually, in the last month or so. So it comes and goes. But now I feel I've had a new relationship with comedy. I don't know why. Maybe as you get older, I think, or the more you do it. I think so. I've been doing comedy for 13 years, or however long it is. If some people don't count COVID because they weren't doing it, but
What are the online gigs like? Well, did you do any
I
comedy?
didn't do it. No, I didn't do it. I
Uh,
did one. I did a game show, and it was so. I did a game show, and it was so awful for me. The game show person was nice, friend of mine. was like at 45 minutes, and my partner said, "Oh, I'll watch it downstairs on the other computer." And I was so bored of it that the host said, "Are you all right? Is Andy all right? Let's check up on Andy." And my partner said she turned off after about 10 minutes. So I never did another one. It was so boring. Anyway, so the writing wise, yeah, so I don't yeah, I've got a new perspective. I'll tell you what my perspective is actually on comedy, a new one. Is that last night I did two gigs this week. One was I headlined an open mic night, a new material one thing in Deptford, which is very well run, very nice night, with some newer material at the top of the set. And then I did a opening 20 of solid stuff last night. But what I feel is that, and Seinfeld actually says this in one of his interviews, that if you're doing it for yourself, it can cause problems, you know, a long term. But if you're doing it for the audience, to give something rather than get, you know, if you want to give laughter rather than get it. And you know what? This just this week actually, I felt that, and a shift, and I think just from the years of doing it, I think. But for the most part, for a decade, I think I've been doing it for myself, and with that comes I don't know, it comes problems, I think, in the ego and the psyche, you know. But I think this week, when I felt like I wanted to make people laugh, you know, for the first time, and that's
Yeah.
after a decade, you know, and I felt good about it. Now I feel a flame, I feel a new love for stand up, you know, and now I'm writing more, and I think it's because it comes from a better place. I think a lot of solo performers can be, as we said before, troubled and troublesome, and even with yourself. And I think I think age as well, you know, gives you a better. You want to contribute, I think maybe. And when you're younger, you don't feel such a need to contribute. You want to get and get for yourself, you know. And now I feel a warmth radiates from me more than before, I think. I used to have a lot of problems early on with hecklers, you know, that didn't like me as I walked on. So I was obviously giving off something, but now I feel that they like me, I think. And I think that's because I like myself a little more. That's what I feel. Is you know, there's the magic of stand up or live spoken word is that there is an energy there, you know, between you and the audience. It's real, you know. There is a, you know, like when you meet somebody in a group of people and you say hello, there is something you give off. And I think often when you meet someone, when I meet someone, I'm not great at meeting new people, you know, and I walk away and I think, oh, they, you know, they weren't very nice. Then I think, well, probably I wasn't very nice. You know, it's like almost a mirror, you know.
What you reflect? Well, I think comedy, you said between comedians and the audience, there's never a purer example of synergy.
Yeah, I think so. There is, it's real, you know that. And
Yeah.
when you're not honest, obviously if you're in a big club or something that's purpose built for comedy, you cannot you could be cynical and still do well, you know. But
Yeah, I agree.
it just depends, you know. Like if you're in, I was to say if you're in like last night, it was the ceiling was very high in the venue, which is problematic
Yeah.
for stand up. And there was lots of space, you know, around the sides and at the back of the room. Again, it's problematic. And the mic was, you know, it was a little bit slightly echoey microphone. So all these that can contribute, you know, to whatever. But if you're in a purpose-built space, theatre or something, then you can get away with a lot more, I think. A lot more internal mistakes than you can.
Well,
Like,
I'd say we go back to a samurai. Then a samurai sword is always be better than a bronze sword, but the
mm,
wielder is still equally as important. You can have all the right components, but at the end of the day, you need to have the skill set still.
you need to have a skill set, yeah. I think,
So
yeah, I agree with that.
when it comes, so you said you're lately you sort of evolved. You like to you're doing it now for the giving more than the receiving. Would you say when you're writing your new when you're writing your material now, when it comes to your jokes, you're writing them for the people, or are you writing what you think's funny at your core?
Yeah, yeah, my core funny, yeah. If I,
Okay.
but I think that the trick for me is you can't write something funny, you know. You have to write something, you know, the man in the sports bag. You know, you're thinking of that. You're not thinking. I actually thought, you know, I need my bag broke. I need a good bag. So it's not. I'm not thinking of that. That's funny, you know. I'm just
Hmm.
that's just a thought that occurs, you know. And sometimes if I have an interaction with somebody in the real world, um, you know, by the time I've got home, I've written the bit. It didn't happen exactly as that, but I've written the bit. You know, I had a years ago there was a boy on a. I turned the corner going to the shops, and a boy on a bike with his mother, and the boy bumped into me on the bike. There was an awkward interaction. No, nothing was said, but it was awkward. I staggered on, you know, to the co-op. By the time I got home, I written a bit about Sean and his bike, which I use quite a lot, you know, in my set. So, and that was a bit about, you know,
Well,
them stop, them stopping, and I imagined what the conversation would be. You know, say sorry to the man. Why are you not saying sorry to the man? And I'm saying it doesn't matter. He doesn't need to say sorry. And in the end, we're both in trouble, me and the boy. You know, we're both looking at the ground. So by the time you get home, I've already written the idea. But it's I was never looking for anything funny in it. You know.
yeah, and then you sort of found the
Just the,
nuggets
yeah, your
as you
kind
went
of
on.
mind where you have an argument, and then you walk away and you think, "Oh, I wish I'd said that." It's not funny, but when you look back at it, you think, "Oh, that could be." And then of course you have to contrive it and find some kind of callback or contrive it into something as well, using the building blocks of comedy, the reveal, or you know the misdirection, something.
So that's when the skills would come in.
There
So
is the writing skills, yeah, in within that.
would you say an observational comic then is basically just a professional people watcher?
Um, you are
Because you're
you
just
are a people watcher,
you're
but
more
you're
aware of your
watching.
surroundings. You're taking note of everything that's sort of happening
Yes,
to
and
find an element of comedy.
of course, and neurodiversity that's very handy because if anybody has if it's neurodiverse or ADHD, then that is actually you don't have that those senses and everything is coming at you, sound, smell, people, you know, it's all overwhelming. So that's fantastic. They probably find why most comedians are neurodiverse is because they are they don't want to, but they are seeing and hearing and having everything coming at them, you know, at the same time. So I think maybe perhaps that's the brain's way if you can funnel it into making sense of that, you know.
Would you
Someone,
say you write most of your comedy outside the house instead of inside the house?
well, I would say most creative thoughts come through the body, so the physical body. So if you get up and walk around, a lot of great writers used to walk, you know, go for a walk, and I think I like the gym. I like exercise, so I'm in the
Yeah.
gym 5 or 6
I
days.
like to. I dislocated my shoulder 2 days ago,
What
so I
did you?
can't. I'm like, yeah, non-existent now.
But I think through the body, you know, get up and do some. I worked with an actor actually years ago, an American actor called James Sobel Kelly, very very nice chap who recently was in Stratford was in Hamlet with the Royal Shakespeare Company, and which I was very pleased for him. And I was in a play about the Russian Revolution. It was it was called Le Juste. It's an Albert Camus play, and we did it at the White Bear in Kennington. And Bill Oddie was in the audience. If you
Oh, yeah.
anyway, anyway, so we did this play, and I was an Enkov, the Russian leader. And anyway, during rehearsals, he got a bit stuck. You know, he couldn't get the scene, so he started to do what he called jump jacks, which is star jumps. You know, in England.
Mm.
And I just looked at he's in front of me doing these jump jacks, and I said, "What are you doing, James?" He said, "Oh, this is how I get started again." And so that this is what I'm referring to is creative. The act of creativity it comes through the body, you know, and 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 what I wanted to say was comes through breathing. I think breathing. is a huge, for me, a huge part of stand-up, is like music. And stand-up has to be very light, and it can't be heavy. It's got to be very light as it comes out the mouth. And the only way, like a singer, for it to be light is that you're breathing well. So it's the body has to be loose. You watch any great, look at Richard Pryor, how loose is the body?
Oh yeah.
Beautiful loose body.
I don't know how he wears it in that uniform though, in that latex. Don't know how he is so fluid. But
Eddie Murphy, that one.
no, Pryor, he wore the red and Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, the red suit. Yeah,
Yes.
suit. Yeah. Yeah. So they're all you have to be very loose, and you have to breathe and be very light. And I found that if I'm having a bad show, it's because I'm not breathing well, and that's
Yeah,
that's that's a whole
never,
podcast for itself, the breathing. But
never considered that. One thing I did like, you said earlier, so made me think like when you go looking for the comedy thing, you're not using all your senses. So like yeah, like when I said people watching, I'm not using any other of my senses to like I'm not
yeah,
hearing like the background ambience whilst the setting's occurring.
yeah,
I'm not taking in of the smell that's happening
yeah,
whilst this event is developing.
yeah,
I'm going to take this away personally and think about it more. That's
yeah.
yeah, this will give me a new insight.
I think so. Yeah, I think you've certainly got to be in the world. I think you have to have these you have to go out and do. You know, it's really about. I tell you something else as well, which struck me recently of late, is that you have to doing something. I'm sort of middle aged now, and few grey hairs in the beard begins. And I think I'm I'm overthinking. Not overthinking. That's quite a good title actually for an Edinburgh show. I'm overthinking. I'm over it. That's actually very good. If anybody would like to use that, feel free. That's actually quite good. Overthinking. Because,
Capital's over, and then
yeah,
segment the word.
that's quite good. I'll tell
Yeah,
you another Edinburgh show actually that I heard. It was a guy called Chris Timoney, Irish, I believe, and I worked with him uh, many years ago. But he had a fringe show called "I'm Here All Week," and the week was spelt as in I'm weak. I thought that was probably the best name that I've heard. He's
so,
here all week.
how would you evaluate the name of this podcast?
Was it sitting down?
Sit down for stand up.
It's perfect. It does
I
that.
was so proud. It was a 3 o'clock in the morning thing, thought, and I was like, I love that. I wasn't looking for a name. I was like, well, I've got the name now, so
Comedians
I've got to
in.
do it.
Yeah, sounds like it. I think I saw a similar name for someone in a wheelchair comedian.
I've got rid of them bullshit. Yeah, but
His show was called Sitting Down Stand Up or something.
Robbing
But
bastards.
yeah, but yeah. So I'm through with thinking. I think more my life. I've thought a lot in my life, and there's a voice in your head, of course, which is your evolutionary voice, which is it makes no sense in the real world. And I'm sick of thinking now, and I just do everything. So if I'm nervous for a gig or anxious, you just do all the things anyway. I think I just try to forget how I'm feeling and forget what the voice in my head is saying, because that's not your ally anyway. It's a voice that's it's a survival voice from generations ago, from history.
You've got me thinking again.
Yeah,
The
it's not
voice in
it's
no,
not
no,
real.
you've got me thinking today.
But your
Uh,
internal voice is from evolution. It's
yeah,
to keep you safe. That's why it's telling you not to do stuff,
but
because
then
it's
also,
dangerous.
I would go also from that. I don't. Your internal voice or your internal thoughts or your brain isn't always your ally. For example, like
Hmm.
I've lost fair bit of weight. I'm now
Yes.
115 kilos. I was
Yes.
155 kilos 2 years ago.
Well done,
But
you.
my brain was telling me, "Oh, you need to go get sugar. Oh, you need to go eat this bacon sandwich at 2 in the morning."
Yes, because
That wasn't always my ally.
because that's what it's lived. It's trying to survive. It's telling you this. You need this to. It's not an ally. It's never an ally.
Yeah.
What's an ally is you just do what you want to do, and you don't worry how you feel about it. I was walking to, I walked to a gig just this week.
Well, you've got my mind going.
Been doing stand up for 13 years. I was walking to the gig thinking, do I really want to do this? Why am I doing this? And I said to myself out loud, you know, you can't be a comedian if you don't do it.
Yeah.
This is life is about doing it, Don't worry how you feel about it, your emotional state, or overthinking it.
Would you say you still get nervous before you go on stage every time, or has that gone now?
Not directly before, but certainly on the way to the gig, yeah.
Yeah. See, I
Once
always get
once
excited in
I'm
the
there,
morning. In the
yeah.
morning, I always get excited. Oh, I'm on stage tonight. But then, as soon as I'm like on the train there, I'm like, oh, what if this happens? What if that happens?
Of course. That's the brain again.
Yeah.
Forget it. I'm nervous on the way there, and then this is a good tip actually. Oh, if I was to give a tip, this is my own tip. I don't. Once you get to the venue, go to the toilet and look in the mirror if you want to see how you've weathered on the way there. But don't look in the mirror again. That's the last time you look. Maybe half an hour before. Stop looking at yourself because when you go onto the stage, you don't want, which is the same as the voice in your head. You want to bypass that. You don't want to see yourself. You want to be no self, and then just be. This is my what I've discovered over the years of performing. You want to. Somebody said to me years ago, what the thing that's getting in the way of your success is you, Andy. This was an actor years ago, and I thought it's very true actually. And the more I came to terms with that, and that is all to do with thinking and the voice in your head. You're stopping yourself. No, like I said before, if you work hard as a stand-up, there's no barrier to entry to certainly to the money level. No, nothing. It's as hard as you work is the reward you get. You know.
I'm quite. I've been doing comedy now for 2.5 months.
Yeah.
I'm on paid work
Yeah. You can
because
do it.
this podcast, I'm working at it 6, 7 hours a day. I'm treating it like
There
a
you
full
go.
time job. I'm using a
There's a
bit of
good
nepotism, can't lie.
good
But
example. Use whatever you can.
yeah, sorry to be honest. Yeah, but there's people who I've already started to help out
Yeah.
because I mean they've come on in, they've been nice, they've been lovely,
Yeah, of
and it
course.
was like I mean I hate the metaphor like come sit at my table. I hate that so
Yeah.
much, but you want to help the people you care about.
Yeah,
So
of course.
I do think doing well in comedy is you've got to be a good comedian, but you've also got to be a good person, and you've got to be someone who people want to help out.
Yeah, like we were saying before, generous, and doing it for the right reasons, I think.
It's
But
why I
a lot of
appreciate you
people,
coming onto the show.
a lot of people
You've got
do it.
experience, and
A lot of people do it for the wrong reasons and also are successful. But it just depends, on how you work best as an individual. I think I agree with Seinfeld in many ways when he says, as a comedian, you have to be something of a ruthless person. So I don't shy away from that element. Also, you do have to be ruthless as well.
yeah. Well,
But
so I said
not,
you could be a good fighter. Doesn't mean you got to go around fighting.
yeah, yeah. You have to have
Uh,
that singular vision of what you can and could do. So I always think there's sort of two visions in comedy. One is your own journey, as a human, and how proud you are of the things that you do. And then there's also sort of the business aspect. Am I where I would like to be in the industry? And they are two for me, very separate elements. So I'm always very grateful, and you can be very proud of what you've done thus far. But I also don't think you should pretend that success doesn't matter. Also, you have to be. I think you have to be quite, honest. I'm honest with myself. That I'd like to be in this or do that or whatever you think the career ladder is.
okay, so but would you ever say you've been content with where you are in comedy, or do you always want to go that one step further?
No, you want to go further, but I was and am content, with where I am. When I started, this is what I'm saying. I'm going to say two things. I'm going to say when I started, perhaps couldn't believe I would be a paid comedian doing 20 minutes in the clubs. So that's amazing. But also, I wouldn't walk around saying, "Oh, that is success." we know, this phrase people say depends what success is for you, you know.
Yeah, I know.
But they're using it as a defense mechanism, saying, "Oh, I'm not on mock the week. I'm not on that." But everyone's got their own version of success. Well, I appreciate that, but I see it in two ways. One is that, but the other thing is, yes, I wish I was on that as well. Do you know what I mean? You can be grateful and happy. The gig I did last night, I was very happy with it. For 8 out of 10, I gave myself. So for the most part, it was solid work, and I was very very excited coming home, and difficult to sleep because you've got the
Yeah.
dopamine, you know. But also, I would like to play, full sets at the Comedy Store or the Glee or whatever.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Different clubs that I've never worked properly, as it were.
Okay. And how would you go about getting to that level, getting into, like headlining Comedy Store, headlining Glee Club?
I think you just have to keep at it, keep your emails. I mean, a couple of emails I got last week, one from a promoter. I was so surprised. I showed everybody. I said, "Look, after about 8 years, I must have hit the email. Must have landed on a good day, and I got an opening spot."
Okay. This is not as relevant, but I'll ask it anyways. What's your thoughts on, doing a lot of gigs in London on early stage for amateurs bringer spots?
Yeah, I don't really care about the politics of the bringer or the state of the end or this kind of thing. I don't do it. Um, in fact, I'm so sometimes when you're working as a comedian, you can become so disconnected with the open mic circuit that I emailed a few people or message on the Instagram, thinking it was like me in the olden days, and they said, "Oh yes." I said, "Look at my Instagram. I'm Andy Storey. I'm not saying I'm anything, but just have a look and see." I said, "Can I come and to do some time at your open mic, new material?" And they said, "Oh yeah, all the spots are 5 minutes. It's a bringer gig." And I thought, okay, I appreciate that. This new people I don't know, but I think a person who's been going for a while should get some leniency. They should look at your work and say, "Oh, come and do 7. You don't have to bring anyone. Do you know what I mean? Where is the
Why
little
is
bit
it
of
so casting iron?
little bit of
Surely
yeah,
having you that
yeah.
that amateur level is only going to bolster the night.
Yeah, because the one I did on Tuesday was a new material night, and they let me headline it, and
Well,
they he said and he
as we're
said to
tracking,
me, "Do as long as you like." And I did about 15 minutes, which I thought was overrunning anyway. But that was nice, and everyone had a good time, and I got some new stuff out. So I think if you've got to bring a gig, and you see, Joel Dommett or somebody or whoever sends you a message, I'm not saying I'm Joel. I'm not hosting this morning. But anybody, Joe Lycett or somebody or somebody, give them a bit longer.
I'm trying to create a metaphor in my head, and it's sunk a little bit after the last minute. But it's sort of asking the general to make sure they can run the same pace as the soldiers. No, there's a
Sure.
different skill set now altogether that has evolved,
Yeah.
and the general's going to be more valuable to the battlefield than the soldier who can, run it in under 8 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
The
People
skill
should be a
set
bit
has
more,
evolved.
bit more open with it, but I don't have any politics about them. I don't really care. There's enough. I know enough places now to go out and do and work on stuff, but bringers and pay. I mean, I used to pay down the Lions Den. When I first started, it was £5, I think.
Yeah.
I couldn't care. I'm not really interested in politics.
Okay, how would you say the comedy? What you've been going for 13 years now? How would you say the comedy world has evolved since you started?
Hmm. That's a good question. How has it evolved? I think there's certainly less working class voices on a broad level. I think that also maybe because of money and maybe because of with social media, there's a quicker, not a quicker route, but there's a route there as well. I think you see less sort of clowning people like a Harry Hill or
Characters.
like Ross Noble. these people, like Paul Foot. These you see less alternative clowning. There is one guy actually I can't think of names again, but he's very very good. He was on Live at the Apollo, very nice act. But you don't see a lot of that, and I think maybe that's to do with the same as in music. Maybe at grassroots level, people aren't going out to see agent. People are not building those people up. And you just do the comedy course or whatever, and I don't know. You see somebody doing well, doing observational comedy, shouting and waving and smiling a lot.
I think it's because they're diagnosing ADHD.
Yeah, probably if you've got ADHD.
If you look at all the ones you just mentioned, like
Yeah.
Johnny Vegas has just been diagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah, Vegas as well. There's another one.
Like
You
they
don't see
didn't,
many of
they
those people.
not being on medicine for it has let their creativity and their I'll use the
Yeah,
word wackiness, probably not the right
yeah,
word. That lets their wackiness shine through, and it
yeah.
has led to these great characters. Yeah, Harry Hill, they 100% have ADHD.
Eddie Izzard, what
One
you don't
hundred percent.
see, but you do see it. There's some new ones. There's Eric Eric Rushton, very nice from
I don't
Manchester, I
know.
think. It's an alternative, but it's not your waving, bombastic, smiling comedian. And there's another one, Sam Nicorezzi or somebody like that. Right.
Grassroots level, how would they form and fit into a bill?
Well, when I go out on the new materials scene, even last night, I don't see. I think post COVID, maybe people are. I feel the audience are yearning for more of a connection with people, which was happening before as well. More of a emotional connection. So I think spilling the beans about yourself, which started off as I think as very an American style. It's what I call psychiatric couch style. I think is very popular now. So if you come on in a pair of tights with some tennis balls down them, maybe people don't know how to deal with that so much now. But certainly in the north of England, that's what we enjoy.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
so
but
would you say it's more TED
you
talk, comedic TED talks then?
maybe not TED Talk, but yeah, I see what you mean. Like talking about yourself, your problems, your anxieties and stuff. I mean, which I do as well. I observe my introvert nature and stuff.
Hmm.
But I think most comedians you see wear their own clothes and just walk up in their own clothes and talk about their lives.
I
I
do
feel.
that. I'll be honest, that's me to a T.
And I'm not saying I mean, that's all good. I like Russell Kane and all these all different kind of Mickey Flanagan and all these kind of people as well that talk like that. But so there has been those changes, and I think the working class thing has got worse. But I don't know. You know, I don't know. These are there's difficult subjects. I think in arts generally the working class thing is and has always been a
I think
tricky one anyway. Just because of and not just because of money. It's to do with the way you're. This is what I think. I think it's the way you're spoken to as you grow up. And not everyone has that. I remember working with an actor in Stratford, and he said a very upper middle class working actor, and he said when he was young, he was encouraged at the dinner table to stand up in the corner, and do it like an oratory, do some kind of speech about his day. Now you don't get that when I was growing up. You weren't allowed to put your elbows on the table, and you had to
well,
ask
yeah,
your mother if you could get down at the end of the meal.
well, yeah. May I please be excused?
So it's not.
Uh,
So these are the things that can you know get into the psyche and sort of rule people out. But of course, there is exceptions to the rule. So I
yeah.
often think you can't excuse yourself. But
Mate, I'll chuck a couple of challenges there. One, I think the working class. Well, the gap now. Everyone's almost working class now, but but going through, the elbows at the table. I've got my elbows on right now. My nan would come down, Beverly,
yeah,
she'd beat the crap out of me. She saw my elbows on the table, even in the talk. But also, I mean, people like talking about their stories. As everyone is work, most people now are working class. Most people do have it hard. it's not a niche anymore.
Yeah.
There's other things about you, like, do you know what I mean? Oh, recession. Oh, it's hit me hard. But it's hit everyone hard. It's relatable,
Yeah.
but it's not about me.
Yeah.
So I think people are going for different angles now, maybe instead.
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly in terms of comedy. I just think that I could have made a killing on the working men's club circuit, But
I've not done a working man's one yet,
doesn't
and
exist.
I would
The
love
circuit
to.
doesn't exist anymore, is what I'm saying. We could have.
Uh,
I think I would have done all right there in the modern working men's club circuit.
uh.
Modern
So,
sense.
okay. I mean, I do love
I've
asking this
got
question.
jokes.
Then I do
Yeah.
love asking this question. In going in 13 years, what is the worst thing you've seen someone do on stage?
The worst thing.
Yes, and we'll get to you in a minute. So this is
Somebody
about
else.
someone
You
else.
mean? I'm not sure I could think of any. What you mean? Not like the worst act?
But like people have said, like I had someone where they shaved her pubes on stage. Not me, is what people have told me. Ones where they've got their dick out on stage.
Yeah, I've
Ones
not
where like they would do like
really.
Nazi salutes and like picking out the Jewish people on stage. Like the most
Yeah, I've got. Yeah,
heinous.
I can think of one thing, but I can't really say it on your podcast. But
As
so
long as it doesn't involve children, you're
we'll
free
leave
to go.
no, we'll leave that question. I think.
Okay, fair enough. So we'll go to you then. What is one joke, and you look back at your archives that you thought was hilarious at the time, and now you look back and think, why did I think that was funny?
One joke. Well, lots of my material isn't isn't funny as it starts as a starting point. I not really can't think of anything in particular joke wise that wasn't hilarious. I mean, I've died on many occasions. I once worked at Jongleurs. In fact,
Yeah,
they're back up again. I think Jongleurs. I did send them an email, but they didn't reply. But years ago, that there's a Jongleurs in Camden that I did, and I come walking on, and somebody said, "Look at this cunt," and then from then on, I would just die. I was so crushed inside that I just couldn't. I continued, but to no avail. That
it
my
just threw
whole.
him straight away.
I was early on in my career, I think, and it was such a big run, and there was a professional had come to see me as well. Was looking.
How would you say your sets have been different then between just doing, the open mic paid work in comparison to doing competitions? Because we spoke briefly before about doing competitions. You've
Yeah.
won competitions. How did you prepare differently?
Well, I always did very, very well in a competition until I got in all the finals of nearly everything, and then I always folded in the final emotionally. So this was like I was talking about earlier about a journey in comedy. So part of my journey was to break through that, and then when I did the BBC radio, I think they changed the name of it now, but it was called BBC Radio New Comedy Awards, and it was broadcast live on Steve Wright, who since died, Steve Wright in the Afternoon, the radio show.
Yeah.
And I was on first, and they said to me, it was Patrick Keelty was the host of it, the Comedy Store, and they said to me, "You're on first, but remember, don't because it's live, don't swear or anything." At that point in my act, I was swearing quite a lot, and I don't swear at all now. To be fair, might say the word prick or something,
Yeah.
or balls or something, but I had a bit about. I think it was a bean tin telephone. I used to make them at school with the tins of beans and listen.
Yeah.
And my joke was that the didn't really work, and the actual tin was hindering the sound, because you had a tin up to you couldn't hear the person. Anyway, so there was lots of effing and blinding in that, which you can hear on the recording that I'm sort of pausing, to try to edit my own mind. Anyway, I never used to do well in these competitions, but that was the first one. My father came to watch, and my partner, my lady friend, was there, Hilary Jane, in the Comedy Store, and I broke through then for myself, and I did really well, and everyone was clapping, applause break, and everything. I didn't win it. I thought I'd won it, to be fair.
And first is always
And,
hard.
what's that?
Going first is always hard. And on gong shows, going second is the worst.
In retrospect, I still think I won it. But that could just be.
Well, where are they now and where are you? So,
Well, Well, to be fair, that's quite a good point. But I won't dwell on that. But they're in various places, the different
Yeah.
people. But all alive, all still alive.
Okay.
But yeah, I broke through then. The other competitions, I always something got the better of me. I thought, well, I'm in a final, and then my ego, my self-esteem is so low that I just couldn't accept that I was in the final. I think, and I always didn't do very well.
Mm.
So in terms of set, I just it's just I always do the same. When I say the same set, I don't want listeners to think that I've just got the it's different material, but I rely heavily
Yeah, you
on
do new
gold.
stuff, but there are the greatest hits bits that are, they're the killers.
I think
Uh,
looking for money, it's always the greatest hits. I think I wouldn't call it that, but
okay,
I would.
and I'll finish it with this one, Andy. Um, if you could give advice to somebody who's never done comedy before, they're looking to get onto the stage, they're a little bit nervous. What advice would you give them?
Well, I would reiterate my stop looking in the mirror. It's quite good. That's a number one, I think. Um, so you're not thinking about your own face and that kind of thing. I would say that I think this was a quote from Sarah Pascoe, who I really admire, writing wise and everything. I think she's a really good comedian, although I think she's using comedy to go do something else, but she's a really good writer. And I think maybe I'm twisting what she said, but this is what I remember anyway. She said you don't have to be brilliant. And I always think that to myself before I go on. You don't have to be the best one on the night. You don't have to put that pressure on yourself to say I'm gonna be the best one on the bill.
Yeah,
You might be in retrospect, but I always think you can be just normal. Just I tell you what, another a bit of advice I heard in an American podcast. I don't know who said it, but he said there are lots of different types of laughter. We have to remember. So if somebody raises the roof, takes the roof off, another kind of laughter might be chuckling laughter. Another style of comedy. Another style of comedy might get different kind of laughter. So depending on your style, like if I went to a purpose-built theatre or comedy club, then I can usually take the roof off laughs. But if I'm in an art centre, people might watch me like a piece of theatre, and they might be chuckling along and say afterwards, "We really enjoyed that. That was excellent." So comedy can be a barnstorm, but it also can be a light comedy. When you watch a sitcom is different to a stand-up is different to whatever a spoken word comedy. So people can enjoy it. Sometimes when you do Edinburgh, people sit there and it's a hot room and people chuckle along for an hour, and you don't get massive laughs, but they've really enjoyed it. So an hour of comedy can be listening to the radio, listening to an Alan Bennett story, a
yeah.
book or something, and you're not laughing out loud. Maybe a couple of pages, and the rest is really enjoyable comedy. So that's a good advice, I think. Don't put that pressure on that you have to smash it. Everyone when you start off, everyone's using the word smashing it.
Yeah, I like as well because if you take Edinburgh for example, you might be the 10th show they've seen that day. They're
Yeah,
tired. Do you know what
yeah,
I mean? It doesn't mean they're not enjoying themselves. They might just be in a different emotional zone right now.
yeah.
Or if you're doing it on a Thursday night, it's late. They've been at work all day. They're gonna be more tired. Whereas a Saturday, do you know what I mean? They've come out at 7 o'clock in the evening, fresh,
Yes.
ready to go. Now the audience will be in a different mindset. So
Yeah. And you're not for everybody. Unless people have paid tickets to see you in particular.
yeah, unless they know what you're about.
If you're on a mixed bill like I was last night, it's not for everyone. So not everyone's going to enjoy it. Sometimes you get the whole audience on side and off you go. Then you're just riding the waves there. But last night wasn't that. It wasn't bloody hard work, but it was you had to keep motoring along. And I
Which
think
is it's as hard as the work you want to put into it.
yeah, sometimes you have to you know anyway from your first bit.
Yeah.
I tell you how I can tell if it's going to be easy or not is when they laugh at the setup. When they laugh at the small moments. If I say I live with my lady friend Hilary Jane and they start laughing and I've got a step cat and they're laughing because there's no joke yet. There's no joke there, but it's just something that I say. If they're laughing at the small bit.
Mm.
then I know that the punchline is going to be big. But if they don't, sometimes sometimes an audience can, if you're telling like a story, even with punchlines, that they're waiting for the end. And I'm thinking, there's other jokes in here. You're missing the jokes. And sometimes I have actually said to the audience, if you listen, this is actually jokes all the way through this. It's not just waiting for the big punchline, but just comedy is exciting because of that, I think. I don't think any comedian would work if there was no jeopardy. I mean, well, why would you do it? You wouldn't get the dopamine hit.
No,
If you said you can work forever and they're going to laugh all the time, 100%, you would stop doing it. You would quit. You do something else. You start cage fighting or something.
yeah, like going to a casino and every button you press, you're going to win. Like you want.
Yeah.
I don't.
You,
My
you,
favorite moment in comedy is always, and I had this 2 Saturdays ago doing Covent Garden when they were laughing at the setup. They laughed at stuff. They were laughing at the little nuggets along the way.
yes.
And, it's like you don't know what's about to hit you.
There
You're
we are.
laughing at this,
That's right.
and
That's what you feel.
that feeling of
Yeah.
5 seconds before you do the punchline.
Yeah.
That has been the most euphoric, most pure moment of ecstasy
Yes.
I think I've ever had in my life.
Hmm.
And I'm really proud of. I had a 5 seconds that I laughed at, and I had a 5 second round of applause. And I stayed in the bit, and I counted 5 seconds. I was like, you know what? I'm proud of that one.
Staying in the bit, that's a great note as well.
Yeah.
If you act out you get a laugh, you have to stay in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you ever so much for coming on. I really appreciate this.
Really
and I've
that.
learned an awful lot from this one.
Oh, well, hopefully that's great. Yeah, I've really enjoyed myself. I like talking, but it's nice to impart. I did actually a comedy workshop in Rochester, actually, Kent, which was quite. I might do some more actually. It was a writing workshop. There was about 12, 14 people there, and it was for charity. I think I got paid, but I don't think they paid, something like that anyway. But it was fantastic. It was about 2 or 3 hours, and I get a lot from imparting, because everyone has something to impart, different philosophies and things,
And that's what this podcast is about. There's funny bits along the way, but it is to teach new comedians the little tricks they look like. I don't. I'm new. I'm still new, and I don't know how long it is you stay till you're not new. But speaking to people like you, people like you, Alistair Barry, Ed Brimson, Luke Conrad, the knowledge that you all have combined. Basically, this is my lazy man's way of taking a class.
Yeah, that's good. Good class there. Yeah.
It's brilliant. Andy, thank you ever so much for coming on. Really appreciate it, mate.
Thank you very much.